in this lecture, we would understand the various reform movements. We'll primarily focus on the reforms that took place in North India, South India, the Muslim reforms, the Sikh reforms, the Parsi reforms, how press played an important role in the reform movements, and most of these reform movements happened in the second half of the later 19th century, and that's one of the most important things. So when we will focus on to the reform movements in the north, our main focus is 9 of the reformists that we would study in this section, and those are Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Then we have Ramakrishna Paramhans and his student Swami Vivekanand. A lot of students get confused between Swami Vivekanand and Swami Dayanand Saraswati. So we'll cover these two together so that the doubt is removed. Then we'll talk about the concept of widow remarriage being propounded by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, the role of any peasant as a member of Theosophical Society, Jyotiba Phule, Mahadev Govind Ranade as some of the major scholars. To begin with, the first reformist was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was originally born in an orthodox family of Bengal, but he was extremely well versed in both Indian languages and numerous European languages, and this gave him a lead to understand the learning, the scriptures which are written across various languages. So he was able to understand and read the scriptures written in Islam, written in Christianity, and therefore he focused on the concept of oneness of God. His idea was that there should not be any caste discrimination, and the rituals which are commonly practiced should be removed instantaneously. So he mainly believed to awaken the mass, it's extremely important that we go with the Indian learning as well as the Western learning. So from the Western we understand logic, thinking, scientific approach, and this would give us a way to remove the concepts that have been based on the blind belief by the priests. Now in 1828, he founded what is known as the Brahma Samaj. The idea of the Brahma Samaj was to maintain or purify the religion of Hinduism, remove the untaught practices under Hinduism, and based on that, he focused on translation of Vedas and Upanishads into Bengali. He also opposed that there should be idol worship, so no idols should be established and idols should not be worshipped. There should be one God. No caste discrimination should be made by any means. In 1829, after the establishment of Brahma Samaj, when Lord William Bentinck banned Sati, he was one of the propounders who led this movement and said that yes, Sati should definitely be banned, Western education should be started in India, and Calcutta became a center where Western education was given to the students in the colleges as well. So he also helped David Hare, we'll understand about David Hare later. He also helped David Hare to establish and open what is known as the Hindu College in Calcutta, and this Hindu College as of now is what is known as the Presidency College. So establishment of Presidency College by David Hare with the help of Raja Ram Mohan Roy is another important development. Before the establishment of Brahma Samaj, it was in 1825 that Vedanta College was founded, and this Vedanta College, the idea behind this was amalgamation of Western as well as Indian learning. So amalgamation of the Western and Indian learning should take place at the Vedanta College. He also published various books, articles and journals in order to promote his idea. Then came Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, highly in favor of women education, women rights. So rights of women, education of women was his main idea. Hindu Balika Vidyalaya was established in Kolkata, and then in 1849, with the help of Bitnu, he established what is known as the first college or the first school for girls, which was later known as the Bethlehem School. So this was established with the help of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He was strictly against the child marriage, strictly against the practice of polygamy, where you could have more than one wife. So polygamy was not allowed, should not be practiced according to him. Child marriage should not be practiced. He helped in passing the Widow Remarriage Act, and therefore we said that for the female rights, female education, he did remarkable works. And during his time, Widow Remarriage Act was passed, and this act was first drafted by Lord Dalhousie. So Lord Dalhousie drafted this act, and in 1856 the Widow Remarriage Act was passed with the help of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He was the principal of the Sanskrit College in Calcutta, and while the time he was the principal, he encouraged numerous of his numerous students belonging to lower caste to join the college, and therefore was a way to equalize the society, remove the barriers in the education. And he also believed that Western learning and Western education should be imparted in the curriculum. Upliftment of the girls, upliftment of the women, and bringing girls with the educational network was his main contribution. Henry Vivian Desiraud started a community which was known as Derosians, and Derosians were basically those who followed the ideology of Henry. The concept was very simple. He was an Anglo-Indian, and he started what is known as the Young Bengal movement. Now this Young Bengal movement was started at a very early age. He was highly inspired by the ideas of French Revolution, which were liberty, equality and fraternity, and he also believed that women education should be imparted. So in 1826, he joined Hindu College as a teacher. He was only 17 years when he joined. Unfortunately, he lost his life early at only 22 years, but within this span of 5 years, he created a series of followers who were known as Derosians, and these were the followers who led his ideology, who led his concept later, opposing the caste system. So caste system was opposed, freedom of speech and freedom of expression was promoted. The next is the contribution of Annie Besant. Now Theosophical Society was founded in 1882, and this is by Madame Blavatsky and Colonel H.S. Olcott. So Blavatsky and Olcott founded the Theosophical Society. However, the headquarters in India were established at Adyar by Madame Blavatsky in 1886. That headquarters were then led by the Irish lady Annie Besant. Now Annie Besant believed that Hinduism and Buddhism should be revived. What is written in the Hindu scriptures must be translated into English. So she laid down the translation of Bhagavad Gita into English. She was extremely against the concept of polygamy, child marriage and caste system. So again, an important reformist. She was in favor of a national system of education. So a national system of education should be propounded as per her ideas. Also, she laid the foundation of the Central Hindu High School at Banaras. This Central Hindu High School at Banaras later became what is known as the Banaras Hindu University or the BHU campus. The next is Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule in 1873 started the Satyashodhak Samaj. The idea of the Satyashodhak Samaj was to actually incorporate female education. So along with him, his wife joined. His wife started various schools for girls in Pune, and then she opened also schools for the people from lower community. Jyotiba Phule was highly against the dominance of Brahmins and believed that even the lower caste should get the right opportunities and the right position in the society. Because of his work, he has been given the title of Mahatma and has been known as Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. So contribution of Jyotiba Phule is again important. Then came Mahadev Govind Ranade. Now Ranade and Ramkrishna Bhandarkar together founded what is known as the Prarthana Samaj. Now this Prarthana Samaj was founded in 1867 in Mumbai, and this was before the establishment of the Satyashodhak Samaj by Jyotiba Phule. So Prarthana Samaj, when founded by Mahadev Govind Ranade and Ramkrishna Bhandekar, focused that there is a supreme God. So one supreme God exists and there is no caste system that should be prevalent. There should be no dominance of priest. Also, women's status should improve. No child marriage should be practiced. No untouchability should be practiced. Also, widow remarriage should be allowed. So those were some of his main ideas under Prarthana Samaj. One of the major contributions of Mahadev Govind Ranade was that the laborers who were working during the day, he started the night classes for the laborers working during the day, and also for the also established orphanage for children who had lost their parents, established education systems and schools for girls. So contribution of Mahadev Govind Ranade is again important. And now we'll cover three of the important reformists in the North India, who are Ramakrishna Paramhans, his son, his disciple Swami Vivekanand, and then we'll understand about Swami Dayanand. Usually students get confused between Swami Vivekanand and Swami Dayanand, so we'll be covering important reformists who were part of the reform movements in North India: Ramakrishna Paramhans, his disciple Swami Vivekanand, and then Swami Dayanand Saraswati. We are taking Swami Vivekanand and Swami Dayanand Saraswati together, as lot of students get usually confused about the institutions and the organizations being established. So to begin with, who was Ramakrishna Paramhans? Ramakrishna Paramhans was a saint, a priest, a reformer. He believed that whatever religion it is, the ultimate objective is to reach one God. So that with that ultimate objective, the realization of the God and achieving salvation is an important idea. His life was full of simplicity, wisdom and holiness, and therefore it became one of the major reasons that numerous disciples followed what Ramakrishna Paramhans said. One of his important disciples was Narendranath Dutt, who was later known as Swami Vivekanand. The idea of Ramakrishna Paramhans, which is to serve humanity, and serving humanity is the best form of worship, was propounded by his disciple Swami Vivekanand. So Swami Vivekanand wanted that the ideologies given by Ramakrishna Paramhans should not be confined to India, but should rather go to the world. When in 1893 he addressed the World Parliament of Religion in Chicago, the idea was brought forward to numerous regions, and the state of India's spiritual existence actually revived. With the revival of India's spiritual existence, Swami Vivekanand was able to prove that India was a country that gave shelter to Zoroastrians, Israelis coming in. So his speech is a complete compendium about that. His original name, as we already know, was Narendranath Dutt, and he was a disciple of Ramakrishna Paramhans. He studied Indian and Western philosophy, and his idea was again important, that it's very important to make sure that the people who are downtrodden with poverty should come out of the shackles of poverty, and for that raising the self-confidence, making them fearless, making them self-reliant is important. Along with that, building their character and having a feeling of patriotism must be a very important aspect. So in 1896, he started what is known as the Ramakrishna Mission. So under the Ramakrishna Mission, school, college, orphanage, hospitals were established. The ideas of equality, fraternity, liberty, unity and oneness of God was propounded. Then came the idea of Swami Dayanand Saraswati. So Swami Dayanand Saraswati laid down Arya Samaj in 1875. So establishment of Arya Samaj was a major breakthrough under Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Under Swami Vivekanand, we said that his establishment of Ramakrishna Mission, which took place later than the Arya Samaj, was important. So when Swami Dayanand Saraswati established Arya Samaj, he believed in amalgamation of Sanskrit learning, Vedic learning, Indian learning and Western learning, and therefore the series of schools which are known as DAV, Dayanand Anglo-Vedic schools, focusing on both the Vedic learning as well as the Western learning and Western sciences, was brought, and thus DAV schools are even run today as a chain of schools. He was the first reformer to talk about the concept of Swaraj and patriotism. And then we have also seen in the words of Swami Vivekanand about the concept of patriotism being brought to the students. The next important thing under Swami Dayanand's contribution was his slogan, "Back to Vedas." When he said that the idea of being back to Vedas, he believed that Vedas were the truth as a science, as a religion, and that's why India holds being one of the nations where the amalgamation of various Vedic concepts became important. He started what is known as the Shuddhi movement or the reform movement or the purification movement. His Shuddhi or purification movement simply embarked the idea that those people who have been converted from Hindus to other religion should be converted back to Hindus. And he was so popular among the masses. The major reason was that his major ideas were propounded predominantly in a very simple language that could be easily comprehended by others, and therefore his ideas of social equality reached people in a much deeper root. He opposed strictly the idea of child marriage as well as the parda. In South India were Narayan Guru, who belonged to the Izava family. Izavas are considered untouchables, and he tried to understand the concept of Sanskrit. We'll understand more about him in a while. Veer Salingam and Chembai Sridharan Naidu. To begin with, Chembai Sridharan Naidu started what is known as the Veda Samaj. So Veda Samaj was started in 1864 in Madras, and this was on the lines of Brahma Samaj started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So as a part of the similar concepts being laid down by Brahma Samaj, this Veda Samaj simply translated the works of Brahma Samaj into Tamil and Telugu, and therefore was able to reach the local roots. He believed that caste system should be abolished, education of girls should be imparted, and widow remarriage should be allowed. So three important things that Chembai Sridharan Naidu focused on in the south. The next was the reformer from south known as Veerasalingam or K. Veerasalingam. Originally he was born in a very orthodox family of Andhra Pradesh, but he started what was known as a Telugu general in 1876, and then in 1878 he founded the Raja Mundari Social Reform Association. The Raja Mundari Social Reform Association focused on upliftment of girls, upliftment of women, providing girl education, and focusing on the concept of widow remarriage. So those were the concepts which were laid down by Veerasalingam. The next is the contribution of Narayan Guru. Narayan Guru focused on the oppressed class in Kerala. He himself was born in Izava family. Izavas were considered untouchables. However, he studied Sanskrit. Now, when he studied Sanskrit, he believed that temples should not have the images of gods and goddesses there. So he wanted to create temples without the images of gods and goddesses. He made sure that temple entry is allowed for everyone. It was restricted by the priests of the temple. That should not happen. So his work on social reforms have been extremely popular. In 1903, he founded the Sri Narayan Dharm Paripalan Yog, and the Sri Narayan Dharm Paripalan Yog basically talked about that all distinctions based on religion or caste are useless, are meaningless. So there should be no distinction that should be either based on religion or based on caste, and his idea was one God, one religion, as simple. The role of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is important. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was given the title of Sir by Britishers. His ideas to uplift the community were very important, because the existing backwardness in the community was rooted out, and he believed in uplifting the community. So the major ideas was removing the parda system, removing the simple process of easy divorce, bringing on women education, against the ideas of polygamy, improve on Western learning and Western schooling. So Western thoughts to be included. As a result, he founded the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College in Aligarh in the year 1875 to promote Western learning along with the regular learning, and later on this is what was known as the Aligarh Muslim University came to be established. Many of the Western books were translated by him into Urdu so that the common man could actually understand and comprehend it. With the help of Britishers, he established numerous Anglo-Muslim associations, which were an important agent for revival of the concepts in the people. The next is the Sikh reforms. Now, Sikh reforms in 1870, Sikh Sabha was established in Lahore. In 1892, Khalsa College was established in Amritsar. Schools were opened under Khalsa College. Promotions of the teachings of Sikh Guru were made, and it was made mandatory to start Gurumukhi teaching, and Sikh sculptures should be taught under the Khalsa school. In 1920, there was a reformation and Akali movement arose. Now, this Akali movement focused on purifying the ideas laid down under Gurudwara and Sikh shrines. There was lots of inflow of money and land in the Gurudwara, but the practices were extremely corrupt and there were selfish Mahants. So, Akali movement focused on purifying the concept of Gurudwara or the Sikh shrines, and finally it is important to note in 1925 a law was passed and the rights of management of the Gurudwara was given to Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee. So Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee was given the right to manage the Sikh shrines and Gurudwaras. The next was the reform movements under Parsis. So three important leaders, Dadabhai Naroji, W.B. Vacha, and then we had Naroji Fardunji. Naroji Fardunji, Dadabhai Naroji and Vacha together were some of the major Parsi reformers, and one of the journals that started was Rast Gaftar, and Rast Gaftar focused on girl education. In 1851, Rehenumai Mazdayazan was started, and that was for upliftment of Parsis and restoration of Zoroastrianism. So some of the important things which were laid down under Parsi reform movement was female education, upliftment of women, marriage customs to be reformed, bringing Parsis out of the orthodox outlook, and later Parsis became one of the most popular and advanced communities who came from outside and played a major role in the reform movements of India. cannot be forgotten in the history are David Hare, William Carey, and Herman Mogling. To begin with, David Hare's role has been extremely important. He established Hindu School, Hare School, and later the Presidency College. So, the now Presidency College has been established with the help of David Hare. He was actually a Scottish and was a watchmaker in Scotland. He was also a well-known philanthropist, and he believed that textbooks should be printed both in English and Bengali. As a result, he started in 1870 the School Book Society, and this School Book Society printed textbooks both in English as well as Bengali. Calcutta School Society was established where schools started to teach in English and Bengali. He died in 1842 of cholera. His contribution in the education is important. The next is William Carey. William Carey actually opened the first university in India which was offering degrees. So in 1818 he started the Serampore College, and later this Serampore College was the College of Arts and Science and the first degree granting institute in Asia. In 1820 he started the Agri Horticultural Society of India. This Agri Horticultural Society of India was established at Alipur in Kolkata, and this was the center where researches were done mainly in the field of botany. He lived mainly in his life in Serampore. He was a social reformer, a Christian missionary, an educationist, a translator, and an activist. The next was the role of Herman Moglen. He was a German missionary who came and established in Mangalore in Karnataka. He was well versed in Kannada literature. He learned Kannada literature and founded the first Kannada newspaper, which was known as the Mangaluru Samachar. So Mangaluru Samachar, the first Kannada newspaper, was started by him. He is also acknowledged as the first Kannada writer. Very important to note, he originally was a German missionary who came to India, but he is recognized as the first Kannada writer, the first modern Kannada writer in India. 36 literary works have been attributed to him. He was awarded doctorate for a literary work in Kannada, which was known as Bibliotheca Karnataka, and that was the collection of Karnataka classics. So his work has been extremely important. These three people who are less commonly heard have an important role to play in the Indian history in case of the reformist movements that started in India. Reform movements that came into an important role. Growth of press was an important marker. Press, mainly through newspaper and journals, imparted the reform ideas and the feeling of patriotism among the common people. Some of the common newspapers that were popular during that time were Hindu, Indian Express, Tribune, Kesari, Bengal Gazette, Amrit Bazar Patrika, then you had Maharat. So those were some of the important newspapers. The sole idea of these reform movements, the growth in the press, was to bring in a radical movement, and this radical movement was against child marriage, was aimed to promote girl education, was for upliftment of female members or upliftment of women, against widow and the evils done on widows. So it was for widow remarriage, we can say, reducing the inequalities in the society, making Western education available to the masses, establishment of learning centers, removal of superstitions, removal of female infanticide from the society. So those were some of the key developments, and as we have seen, the reform movements had their spread in the North India, in the South India, among various communities like Sikhs, Parsis, Muslims. So the contribution of the reformists across various segments and the regions of India have been extremely important. Press played a major role in propagating these ideas from one location to another. So this was what we have covered in this lecture. We will be covering many interesting lectures of ICSE history. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day.